Don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I recently picked up this lovely little lockable diary from one of our local stationery stores. I liked the fact that it had this tiny little padlock on the side. I mean, it's not really to stop anybody who really wants to get into your diary to have a read, because it is quite flimsy, but it's just the fact that it had this tiny little cute padlock with the keys that I thought would make a really nice kind of Gothic journal. So obviously the cover is aimed at younger people, non-gendery specific really, because it's got yellows and blues and pinks on as well, so it can be for anybody really. On the inside it has just little sheets saying my notes with little rainbows and hearts and little lovely clouds, which is really nice. But I'm not going to keep those, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to gut the journal. So I have a scalpel and I'm just going to open the journal up, just fold the pages back, and then where they attach to the outer spine, where those inner cover pages are going to be, I'm just going to drop my scalpel in and I'm going to angle it just towards the spine, but making sure I don't go too far. Now there's loads of glue stuck in this. I've done halfway down and I'm going to do the other half. That should do it. There we go. So making sure I don't damage this part here, which is hidden. So I'll just turn that over again, and then we can just really carefully just run a knife down. There we go. And just release the text block from wherever it's hiding. Now I could keep that and recover it at a later date as a present for somebody, who knows, but now I'm left with this fabulous kind of cover with a lockable front. So what I want to do is I want to recover this bit. Doesn't matter whether I go over the bits of the padlock or not, but for now I'm going to just go over everything with either just some gesso, or I might stick down some tissue paper just to give a base, just to get rid of. I think tissue paper is probably going to be the way to go with this one, just to give it a little bit of interest and a little bit of texture. And by tissue paper I mean probably some old napkins. So bear with me a second while I go and raid my stash, grab my Mod Podge or matte medium, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I found a napkin which was pretty much the right size, so the whole thing is going to fit on half, which is just perfect, so we don't need the full napkin. So all I'm going to do is just grab a straight edge. This just happens to be a Tim Holtzy ruler, and just give it a bit of a rip. There we go. And I can keep that other piece for a later date. It doesn't matter what the pattern is, because it is going to get painted over anyway, so it doesn't make any difference, and it doesn't matter which way up it goes either. So all we're going to do, or all I'm going to do, is just, I haven't separated the plies, so all I'm going to do is just grab some matte medium. Let's see if I can get, that's it. These things tend to solidify in the tube look, and you end up with something like that, which is just dried glue. Fun, but not what I want. Right, so let's just drop some matte medium down on there. Go all the way over. Like I said before, it doesn't matter whether we cover up that little bit of the metal plate. That's fine. Just make sure I've got plenty. And I go over the edge. That's it. And like I said, I'm not going to separate the ply. I'm just going to apply the matte medium straight the way through. But I'm going to be quite gentle with the application because I don't want the tissue to tear. But even if it did, it wouldn't be the end of the world. There we go. Just let it soak in. Particularly on the edges. And I'm just going to flip that over like that and do the same thing at this side. This time, get them on the spine. Here we go. And then just pick up the excess with my brush and then just gently guide it back down again on the other side. And then you can start smoothing out the tissue. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether it gets a few wrinkles, it just all adds to the overall look and texture of your piece. Gives it a kind of leathery look. So just gently brush it so it's all soaked in. And you can tell when it's all soaked through because you can see the colour underneath. And that's fine because we will be adding layers of paint. This is just literally just for texture. There we go. Right, and I'm going to grab my heat gun. We'll just give that the once over. Okay, so that's pretty much dry now. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scalpel and just kind of gently just go around, and it's still going to be a little bit wet in some places. Or you could just use a pair of scissors, really. You don't really need to do this with a craft knife. And if you do get a few kind of rough edges, you know, that's fine. It just adds to the kind of Gothic and Baroque nature of what it is that we're doing. In fact, you could probably just go around with your fingers. There we go. Just like that. Okay, let's clear those bits up, and then we've got textured front cover. Alright, so now we've got that, we can grab some gesso. Now I'm going to use black gesso if I've still got some. Yep, there we go. Give it a quick shake up, grab the brush, because we're taking out the pages first, we can just work on the cover without worrying about pages inside. And like I said, the gesso was pretty much, the tissue was just pretty much for a little bit of almost like leathery texture. Right, before I go any further, I'm just going to dry off some of this. And the only reason I've done that really is just so that I don't get it all over my hands when I try and hold it. Okay, so excuse me, another quick blaster of the heat gun. There we go. Okay, so that's the front. There's still a little bit, but that's okay. Right, so what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do the inside now. But I'm not bothered about the spine, just the inside section here. And this probably will need a couple of coats. Okay, so that's both sides covered with a little bit of gesso. Now, there are, as we all know, 1,000 ways to leave your lover and 1,000 ways to die in the West. Or is it 100 ways to die in the West? Which basically what I'm saying is there's more than one way to skin a feline. By that I mean there are different ways in which to achieve the same goal as what I've just done. You do what works for you for the project that you're doing. Each project that you do is different to the next one, so don't get too hung up on, you know, the way that one person does one thing and another person does another. You know, it really doesn't matter. You work the way that you're comfortable in working, and it doesn't matter what anybody else does or the way anybody else does anything. You do it the way is more comfortable for you or easier and practical for you. So I do mine differently depending on the size and depending on the actual project. Sometimes I use tissue, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use texture paste, sometimes I don't. Like I said, there's 1,000 ways in which to do things. Right, so today, for ease and speed, I'm going to use hot glue gun again, because I don't want to wait 24 hours for my gel medium to dry. And this is going to go on and stick almost immediately, so I've got to be careful. Try not to shake too much. So about there. There we go. So once that cools, that will stick and not move. Bit more glue. I'm not worried too much about strings, because they will just blast off later. Alright, let's get this turned round and then lined up with the other. There we go. And that can sit in the middle there. Lovely. So I'll put a couple of blobs on the back of that. One there, and maybe just one there. Right. And like I said, this is kind of like a Baroque, Gothic-y kind of journal cover that I'm going to be doing. I will be doing the inside, but depending on time, depends whether or not I do it today. Okay, all those strings have gone now. I've just literally melted them away. Right, so I've got those two down first, although that layer down first, so I can add some gesso over the top of those. Because we're going to be adding a layer on top of embellishments, I want to make sure that I've got inside or the underside of these done first before I add those other ones, because it makes getting to them a little bit more difficult once you've got them stuck down. So for example, if I stick this on now, I'll have difficulty getting to these bits with the paint, and that's not an ideal situation. So again, I'll just go around giving each of these items just one coat of the gesso, and then I'll join with you when I've done that. Okay, so that's first couple of coats done on there. Now it's time to add my main spookiness, so that can go on next. So I just have to make sure I know where the points are. So we want there, around the eyes, there, around the bottom part, and just a bit of glue at the top. Stinks. Yep. I'm pretty happy with the position. It's really kind of striking, isn't it? Just stands out. Right, I thought I'd stick a little cherub just at the top there. So that needs to be head, bottom of the wings, wingtips. Like I said, not worrying too much about the strings from the glue gun because they will just burn away later. Okay. Yeah. I like that. Okay, and because that glue is pretty much now dry, we can now go over this section with even more gesso. So I forgot to mention, these resin pieces are taken from various different moulds, silicone moulds that I've purchased over the years from different companies. So some of the moulds don't even have any identifying marks on anymore. I think the skull that I've just used is from, I think, last year's Finnabair release. I think it was the one with the bones, the leg bones and things on it. I think, yeah, because this year's it was the cat and the cow skull, I think. That she released. So this would have been from last year's. Okay, so let's just give that a quick dry. Okay, so I can see pretty much where I need to go now, where it's a bit thin in places. And I tried to get the paint from pooling in the cherub's eyes, because if you don't get rid of that, you'll end up losing some of the detail, and that's not what you want. So that's why I brushed the cherub's face. You may have seen me do it, or not. It depends if you're paying attention or not. Okay, so that's that layer done. Now that should dry pretty quickly because it's still warm. So those little dry brushes of gesso that I've just put on there dry pretty much as they are. Right, so the next layer we've got these fabulous bat wings that way, and I want them to go underneath the cheekbones and just sit in about there. Again, you can see the difference in the colour there, can't you? So let's just add a bit of glue on that bit. I might actually just start to run out of glue now, so I have to grab another stick. Right, so underneath the cheekbone and just touching the skull. That's it. And then same on this side. All the bubbles in it until we're getting towards the end. Right, let's just try and turn that over without burning my fingers. Actually, I might just be able to grab that and drop it in situ. That's stuck, and so's that. I think we're nearly there. Yep, that's going nowhere. Tint going nowhere. So let's give that a quick coat. And again, these bat wings I think were from another, I think last year's Prima Finnabair mould release. Absolutely love these bat wings. I've got a set which are quite large that are perfect for making decorations for steampunk hats. Okay, so I think layer 1 on the bat wings. Let's just give that a blast. Wrong one. Okay, so let me just lift that up and you can see the detail on that now. Hoping that the camera's not going blurry because my screen is having difficulty processing all that black. And then we've got one of the little moths from this year's insects one, I think it was. So we'll just have a little bit of glue. I don't think it's going to sit actually on the wings, so I'll just add a little bit onto the body. And then we're going to give this a little bit of a Hannibal Lecter Silence of the Lambs kind of vibe. Such a good movie that. Also hides the tips of the bat wings. There. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to sit for a few seconds. Now the other thing that I want to add is just a couple of these stars. Again, I think this is from a previous year's release from Finnabair. And of course, you know, being able to mix and match year after year is such a bonus. So that's going to go down onto there. Which I suppose I could have put this one down earlier on, but you know. And then bit of gloop on that star there. There's loads of strings on these, but that's okay. Like I said, we can always go back and remove them later. Before that dries, I can just kind of remove the excess while it's still a little bit warm. It's cool enough to touch, but warm enough to still be pliable enough for us to get rid of any excess. And like I said, we're not going to worry too much about any strings because we can get rid of those laters. In fact, we can probably do it now. There we go, all gone. I think that's going to do it for the embellishments. That's it, just go over and just try and brush the colour into all the detail, but not too heavy so that it clogs it up. It's like a fine dance of finesse and speed. Okay, I think as far as the gesso is concerned, we're done. So all I need to do is to make sure that's nice and dry and cool down, and then it'll be time to start adding some colour. Okay, so I have two colours of Art Alchemy metallic wax. So we've got graphite and we've got burgundy. So the graphite obviously is kind of like a grey metallic with a silvery sheen, and then we've got the burgundy. Now I haven't opened this one yet, so I don't know what colour is the underlying colour on the graphite. I'm hoping it's kind of a warmer colour. So let's just have a look. Let's just put some of the burgundy. Yes, there you go. You see, it is a warmer colour. So it's got some gold in there. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that burgundy on my brush, and then we'll start adding some of this nice kind of warm, beautiful kind of burgundy tones into it. Now I'm using the brush because I want to get into a lot of the nooks and the crannies for this first kind of layer. So the burgundy is kind of going to be the main colour base coat, and then I'll add other colour over the top of that. So, and I've just noticed that my camera is now just started to kind of give me a warning. The battery is going to give up the ghost just when it starts to get interesting. So I will just continue to add a base colour of this kind of beautiful red colour all over, just like you can see me doing now. And then I'll join with you once I've given it a full kind of going over, and then when the battery's charged again on the camera. while the burgundy wax is drying, I thought I would take a few minutes out just to do the text block, if you like. So this is the one that I took out. So if I grab a measuring stick, it's about 1 centimetre thick, which is just under 1/2 inch. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to replace this block with some watercolour cardstock, or mixed media cardstock, watercolour cardstock. So I've measured the size of the page. So this is going to be my template for my pages. So these are the sheets that I have. So all I'm going to do is just lay it over the top. I've got one of my deckle edge rulers here, as you can see, and I'm going to use the medium edge. So on the deckle edge rulers there's 4 edges, there's 4 grades, if you like, of edges. It might be easier actually if I show you one with the blue cover on, so you'll be able to see the lines better. I'll just grab a set. Just talk amongst yourself for a second. There you go. I think you can see the edges better on those ones. So on the deckle edge rulers there's a fine deckle. On the other side there's, that's the small deckle. The medium deckle's on the other one. And then on the other deckle edge there's the large, and then on the other side then you've got the mega. That's what I call the mega deckle. So those are the deckle edge rulers. Obviously the blue colour is the protective cover that's on them for transport when you get them, and then when you peel the blue off they go beautifully crystal clear like that. So those are the deckle edge rulers, and I'm going to use them for tearing. So just line it up with the edge of the paper, and then when I've got it I can just slide the template out of the way, put a little bit of pressure on the paper, on the ruler, grab the edge and then just pull it towards me. Now I could, if I wanted to, just spritz it gently with a little bit of water first, but really there's no need. Look, you've got that lovely deckle edge. So I'm going to fold the sheet in half. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. And then grab my template, lay it just over the top, just so I've got a rough idea of where it wants to be. So I can then just put a little tear there, bring the deckle edge back in, and then put a bit of pressure on, and then I can do 2 at once. Both sides at once. And then I've got my watercolour cardstock, which is the same size as the text block that I originally took out. There you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear maybe 8 of these in total. So I've done 1, I've got another 7 to do, and then I'm going to create a little insert for the book and we're going to stitch it in. So let me go off and do the other 7 of these and I'll be right back. Okay, so the next step is I've used the same template that I used to create my pages, and I've just punched 3 little holes down the centre. So I've come in 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom, and then marked 1 in the middle. Easy as that. So that's going to be my template now for punching my pages. So all I'm going to do is literally just add some little holes, just like that, in each one. And if I was feeling brave, I could do more than 1 sheet, but I'm not. So you've seen me do these 3, so I'll go away and finish off the other 5, or do the other 5, and then I'll be back. All my 8 pages have now had the holes punched all the way through them, so that's fine. So I'm just going to use the template, or I've used the template one last time, and I've created a tray for them all to sit in. Now as you can see, it's the same size as the paper on both sides, front and back, but there's a spine of about 10mm, about 1 centimetre, or just under 1/2 inch. and I've already punched the holes in. So those now are going to get stitched into that spine. So that's going to be the next job. So I'll just grab my sewing kit and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my thread. I've gone with a red, I'm hoping the camera's picking that up as red, embroidery floss. This is a DMC embroidery floss, and the needle I'm using is a Japanese sashiko needle. Yes, very posh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the outside on the tray, and I'm just going to go through and add each one just to make it easy on myself onto the needle. There's only 8 sheets. Theoretically, they're already lined up. There we go. And I'm going to pull through to the middle, but I'm going to keep a thread back, and then I'm going to go back through all the sheets. I can try and get them lined up, but there's only 8 sheets, so it doesn't really take that long, even if you have to go back through and just kind of manually poke through each and every one, and then back out again into the spine. Bearing in mind, I want to leave a long thread, at least one that's going to go all the way through the journal. And then I'm coming all the way down to the bottom, and then I'm going to go back in through each sheet. Now hopefully that should go in really easy. There we go, straight through to the middle, back out the other side, and then we're going to go back in to the middle. And look how easy that was, straight through. I can put my needle away, otherwise I'm bound to lose it, and knowing me, I'll probably sit on it and have to go to the hospital and be really embarrassed because there's a needle in my bottom. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just pulling it to the side there, not upwards and not downwards, because that might tear the paper. So, but just to the side. It's underneath that middle thread, if you like, is right there, with the threads on either side. So I'm then going to just tie a knot in those, just putting a little bit of pressure on it. There we go. Just tie it in place. You can do 2 or 3 if you want, just to hold it. But what we aren't going to do is we're not going to cut them off. We're going to leave them so that you've got a marker, a nice threaded marker, if you want to use it. And they're all stitched in. How fabulous is that? Okay, so that's the text block ready. Let me just bring the covers back in. So that's now going to sit all nice and neat inside our new covers. But we haven't finished decorating it yet, have we? So that's going to be the next step. Right, so now that this is all lovely and dry, it's time to bring out the graphite. So let's just bring some of the graphite onto the work mat. There we go. Now you could use your finger to add this, but I'm going to use a brush again, same brush as that I used before, and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the graphite, and then I'm going to start just adding those highlights. So the red of the burgundy is underneath. And then it starts to pick out all the highlighted detail. I'm hoping the camera's picking that up. I didn't want to use silver because I thought it'd be too bright. But the graphite, which is kind of dark, would complement the colour really nicely. Okay, so just gently add those silvery elements. And in the background, you've got that kind of red still showing through. You see the shine on that silver now. Let's turn that upside down, and then we can start just highlighting a little cherub's wings. And this is why I wanted to use the graphite rather than just the one kind of colour tone, because it does play off right next to, if you like, the chrome that we're going to be having on with the padlock. So now just on the edge, let's just grab a little bit of that graphite on the edge. Yeah, you see all the details just starting to shine really nicely now. And then we'll have a little bit just kind of around the edges, not completely covering the back, but just a few kind of vignetted around the edge on the back. Nice and subtle though, you can see the shine. A bit more up here, I think. Hello, Mr. Bentley Blues. Have you come to see me? No. He's gone to bed. I don't know. Doggies, eh? Lovely. And look at that shine. Just those hints of the red coming through. Absolutely fantastic. I'm trying not to get too much on the background on the front, but maybe just a little highlight here and there in the corners. There we go. Maybe a little bit on the cherub's face. Love it. See if I can get in there. Just across the top. Yeah, I have to say I'm really enjoying that. Right, okay, so I just need to clean this up. I've got some alcohol, so I'm just going to give that a quick spritz because alcohol will break down the wax, and you can just clean that off quick as you like. Particularly if you get any wax on your craft mat, just spritz it with your alcohol. And it's also how I clean my brush as well, how I get rid of the wax off the brush. But I'll do that later, and it doesn't matter whether it dries either. You can still, oh look, it just glued it there, look in the middle of my desk. So glad I spotted that before putting my elbow in it. There we go. I'm glad it never landed on my trousers either. Right, so what did I do with my text block? There it is. There's my text block. So let's just open it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this into here. So I'm going to use Elmer's Skull Glue. That's providing. There we go. So I'm going to leave a little bit towards the edge. And like I said, I created the tray out of cardstock. That should be sufficient. And then what I'm going to do, make sure I've got that the right way up, because there is an up and a down now, is I'm going to lay that right into the middle there. Making sure that I get it even. So what you could do now is, if you wanted to, is get some clamps, is that what they're called? Which I've got somewhere. Again, because I've had a tidy up recently, haven't I? Which is typical. Anyway. That should sit about even. Out there. That's it. So if I just put that glue there and let those fold backwards, that should just sit. I'm just rubbing it gently with my fingers. Try not to squidge too much glue out at once. Now, what happened to all those clips? Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a minute or two, and then just trying to make sure I get it even. Yeah, that's about right. That's about even all the way around, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, looks like I'm going to... Oh, there's one there. But I don't think that's going to be big enough. I think I need a bigger one than that. Okay, I need to find them. Oh, hang on. Are they in there? Yes, they are. Hang on. See, I knew I'd tied it up somewhere. Just add a little bit of pressure on there then. That's it. Yeah. Okay. I can leave that for a minute or two now. Now that I've got the clips on. Front section of that book is now stuck down, so it's time to do the back. So grab the same glue again, and it doesn't matter whether any of this kind of like squeezes out. There we go. That should do. And then what we need to make sure we do with this is make sure that we get it so it's right down into the bottom, and then we can grab our clips again, make sure we've got it even about there, and then add the clips. We've got an even side all the way around. Make sure that's gone into, yeah, it has done, that's fine. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a dance just to get it to evenly slide in. That's it. And then get the other one down at the bottom. Got that. And then same thing again. Just grab that clip. And that's going to hold that in place. That's it. And maybe just grab one more clip just to hold the papers. There we go. And we just need to leave that for a few minutes for that to grab, take hold, and then we're laughing. No, stand up. That's it. Okay, so inside front cover glued down. Back cover glued down. I've added a tiny little skull bead just to that tail end of the thread, just so we've got a little marker that just dangles just below the book. And there's that beautiful kind of graphite colour. So now we have a little mini watercolour paper with those beautiful rough deckle edges. Of course, I used 8 sheets, so that means there's 32 individual pages. in which to play with. So 16 leaves, 32 pages, but just the one signature, which fits just nicely that thick cardstock or watercolour paper, watercolour cardstock, into the journal. But of course I've got a little padlock to keep the content nice and secret, but I also added just a tiny touch, I'm hoping the camera's just picking it up, of that burgundy wax just into that kind of leatherette detail just on the padlock as well. I did it to both sides. So now I've got a mini Gothic watercolour journal, or a mini book of secrets. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me put this journal together from its humble beginnings. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking that button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. And don't forget, you can access your exclusive angel-only content over on my website. There's a link in the description area below. Thank you.